Hey, y'all, and thanks for joining us today for Redefining the Standard, a conversation about Black beauty in corporate America. I'm HuffPost Black Voices editor Taryn Finley, and we're here at Build Studios in partnership with Sisters in Media and My Black is Beautiful for a discussion about the role of Black women's beauty in the workspace. We are joined by some amazing panelists that I'm about to introduce. Firstly, we have Nadira Mutala, and she is a communications manager at Procter & Gamble, where she leads My Black is Beautiful, Pantene Gold Series, and Head & Shoulders Royal Oils. Next is Maya Allen. She is the digital beauty editor at Marie Claire, where she covers beauty, health, wellness, and other topics to empower millennial women. And Maya has also worked at the Oprah Magazine, Cosmo, Essence, InStyle, and Birdie. Next, we have Minda Hartz. Minda is an adjunct professor of public service at NYU, and she's also the founder of The Memo, a career development company for women of color. She's also the host of a weekly podcast, Secure the Seat. I love that name. And her debut book comes out this year. Welcome, Minda. And next we have Brittany Noble Jones. Hey, Brittany. She's an award-winning journalist with a decade of experience with on-TV reporting. She's currently a digital contributor for NBC, BLK, and a stylist for Michael Kors. And last but not least, we have Kennedy Johnson. She is the producer and host for Yahoo lifestyle show, The Drop. And she's also a social media influencer and the host of Live with Kennedy on Instagram, where she tackles a range of issues affecting millennials. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes. Show them some love. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to hop into this conversation, but before we hop in, I just want to let folks know at home to tune into Sisters in Media's IG story for a live polling and Q&A. We want to engage you in this conversation. We think it's so important, so we would love to hear your voices. So ladies, with that, we'll get into the conversation. How do you define beauty? We'll start with you, Nadira.
I think the beauty really starts from within. You have to feel great about yourself. It's not about an external definition. It has to be something that's defined from within you, and I think that starts really young.
Mm-hmm. Maya?
I wholeheartedly agree. When I think of beauty, I think of strength, I think of power, I think of fierceness, I think of self-love. I think that true beauty is an undeniable, keen sense of who you are and whose you are and what you bring into the world.
Yes, I love that. Beauty for me is self-advocacy. It's being fully melanated, owning what I bring into the room, advocating for myself, but also advocating for others. There's beauty in that.
I think that's the thing. You can't define beauty, right? You can't say what, I can't tell you what is beautiful, right? And I think that's the problem. We try to put it into a box like this is beautiful and this is not, but that shouldn't be the case. I don't think beauty can be defined.
What about you, Kennedy?
Facts. But then also, I think beauty is really what's going on in your spirit and your soul and how you're moving out here in these streets. I'm very big on what's going on inside. So basically, everybody's answer is the right answer.
Yeah, definitely. Beauty is such a personal thing, and as you can see, it means so much to, different people. And I think especially for Black women, we have such a unique relationship with beauty because oftentimes the world doesn't find us as beautiful. In the workspace, we do have this issue of pretty privilege and that leaning to Eurocentric, standards. And I want to kind of get into personal stories. And this question is for the entire panel. Have you ever felt self-conscious about your hair, your skin, or like any of your features as a Black woman in predominantly white workspaces?
Maybe, do you mind if I hop in? Maybe not like what I'm looking like, but I was made to feel that way one day. Can I tell you a little story?
You can.
So I was minding my own business, y'all. And we were having a meeting, and my manager's there, the human resource manager is there. And towards the end of the conversation, and the rest of my team is there, she says to me, Kennedy, you're doing a great job, but would you mind coming in with your hair combed? So I was like, well, what you mean by that? What you mean by hair combed? Because my hair is combed. My hair is natural and out. And she said, just combing it because it's normally really wild when you come in. And my manager, who was black, and my human resource manager is the one who said that to me. My manager, who's a black woman, stepped in and said, that's Kennedy's natural hair. This is how she wears her hair, and this is how her hair grows out of her head. And that was the conversation there. And it wasn't until that point where I started being more conscious about the way that my white peers were receiving me when I was coming into work. I never thought about that. Not in that way. Because it's just like, this is my hair. I know y'all not thinking about what's going on top of my head.
Girl,
you know what I mean?
I wish I had your confidence. At the time when I was working at my last news station, my boss told me my hair was unprofessional, the equivalent to him putting on a baseball cap to go to the grocery store, and that I was a news anchor, right? And that viewers needed to see a beauty queen. And so I actually had my hair braided, 2 little braids. That's what I could do with my little fro, like just put it into 2 braids. But it was unprofessional to them. And I wish I had the confidence to know, like, no, I still am beautiful. And like to fight back. But at the time I was like, oh, so you want straight hair? Okay, I didn't have that confidence at the time.
Yeah, and similar to these 2 ladies' stories, I feel like as a beauty editor, I'm working in the editorial industry, and y'all, it is really not diverse at all, right? So I'm in these rooms, sitting at these conference tables, and we are talking about beauty head on. We are talking about trends. We're talking about culture. We're talking about what they think is pop culture. And, coming up in the industry, I've interned for years. I came up as an assistant. I worked in the closet. I did everything to get into the space I am in today. And so being in those situations, I was a sponge. I was soaking up all of this verbiage, this language, the way that they described Black women and Black hair. And to be honest with you, it was just straight up ignorance. So I used that opportunity to simply educate, working in beauty and using my words and using imagery and using these celebrity interviews and talking to these women and talking to real women. I'm trying to find the human connection and the beauty within them to share our story so these people can know, because they don't know how to talk about Black hair. They don't know how to talk about box braids. They don't know how to understand that one day I can wear a 22-inch weave and then the next day I can have my braid out and it will be beautiful, right? But I'm from Portland, Oregon, so that's one of the whitest states in America, right? It's 10% minority. So I always grew up being the only one, and I went to Howard University, 2 steps, and I feel like being able to exist in both of those worlds, coming from Portland, going to an HBCU, and then going into this industry full of pressure. So many girls would kill to have my job. I am the only Black woman at the table, at the room, which I'm always working to change and bring more of us into these spaces. I use that position to educate them because they simply don't know.
For me, the struggle, sensitivity has not necessarily been around my hair, but around my weight and my size. And where that comes up is in unexpected places, like we're getting ready for an event and everybody's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and the t-shirts that they ordered, the largest size is an extra large. Well, that's not gonna be flattering on me. And so a lot of times it's just about feeling excluded from the group in that way. And it's not intentional, it's just that it's not thought of. And so oftentimes I'm having to advocate for more inclusive style choices for what we wear when we go to events or when we're doing uniforms, and giving people a heads up, like, hey, if you're gonna order vests for everybody, please start shopping for the large size first and then work down from there.
But you should never be a second thought. That's it's ridiculous that, we have these kind of stories and stories like that. And Minda, I didn't want to cut you off, but go ahead.
No. I think that it's changing the narrative, right? So for so long, we've been told that our hair is supposed to look this way. This is what professional looks like. And we have to shift the narrative. And I even think about when I entered corporate America that I was always the only one or one of few. And even in grade school, I was one of the only ones. And so I remember having back in the day, now I'm aging myself, so don't judge, but I had a wave nouveau, not to be confused with the Jerry curl, okay? And I showed up to class, and in my yearbook, one of my white peers wrote, "Hey, greaseball," and everybody else. So if you see my junior high yearbook or high school yearbook, you see greaseball. So I was very conscious at a very young age that when I entered the workforce that I needed to be everything but the greaseball, right? And so that really mind messed me because then I was very important to go in and have the most polished hairstyle, right? Pulled back the tightest, the straightest hair. And so it wasn't until much later in my life that I realized that I have to change the narrative. I have to take the glass ceiling off myself, and beauty is defined by me, not by status quo.
Yeah, I love that so much. Yes.
We are the culture.
We are. I love that so much. And our hair, our skin, like who we are, our womanhood, our femmehood, it isn't just aesthetical, it's political, and just by nature of kind of what is put up against us. We just saw, just this week, literally in 2019, NYC finally banned hair discrimination in the workplace, which is late. It's late. But Maya, I want to ask you, why is our hair, our skin, why is our beauty more than aesthetic, specifically for Black women?
Yes. I think that our hair, our skin, our features, it all tells a story, right? We come from this legacy of amazing and empowering women, and braids date back to 3500 BC, right? Like our ancestors were wearing braids, and those told so many stories and were standing on the shoulders of such strong women. And I think that acts as a symbol of rebellion. If I'm walking into this suited up, professional, quote unquote, environment wearing all of my textured styles, wearing my bantu knots and my braids, I think that shows that I am confident in who I am. I'm confident, like I said, in whose I am. I represent all women, and I think that oftentimes our hair is grouped into one category, especially to others, right? It's like natural hair is just natural hair. Well, actually, there's a lot of different curl types. There's 4C hair, there's wave, there's so many different facets of Black women who contain multitudes and who carry that in every single style that we wear. And we're in this society where our hairstyles are getting culturally appropriated every single day. Every
minute.
There are times when I can't even entertain that. I'm not gonna write about Khloe Kardashian wearing bantu knots. I just refuse to do it because I'm not gonna amplify her ignorance in this platform. And then when I do get singled out, that doesn't happen to me anymore, but I've dealt with experiences where, this would happen and we would have to write about it and just be so angry. But where's the solution? We're angry, but what are we doing to educate these people? So now I'm just trying to showcase everyone, right? I want to interview all these women. I want to put them on every single platform because they need to know. And it's about how we are illustrating our beauty because they don't know. So we have to use our power and our voices to show up and show them who we are at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's necessary. And Brittany, I want to kind of piggyback off of, you mentioned cultural appropriation, Maya. I think that, especially now, in your case, you were told to straighten your hair. And now we're seeing so many non-Black women, specifically white women, who are being celebrated, who are getting these opportunities and, crediting not, cornrows and bantu knots with who actually created them, Black women, but to people like Bo Derek. you know? And so I wanted to ask your take on that, you know, being the victim of essentially this kind of microaggression and now seeing white women celebrated for wearing our styles. How does that make you feel?
You know, I'll be honest, maybe I feel a little bit differently than the other women on this panel, but it doesn't bother me as much. And I have a story. It reminded me. So in Jackson, Mississippi, I was wearing the two braids, right? I wore one right here and one right there. But I remember when I was in Flint, Michigan, which was mid-career, and I did the same thing there. I had the two braids, and in Michigan, it was okay. And I remember my meteorologist, who was blonde, she wanted her hair to be like mine. You know, can you braid my hair so that my hair can look like that? So now that I think about it, it's like, okay, in Mississippi, that was so unprofessional, but in Michigan, they wanted their hair to look like me. You know, so I think that those could be teachable moments, right? I think that we can have these conversations in these moments. Yeah, there's a lot more folks out here wearing braids, and maybe they don't understand why we wear braids. So again, we can use these as teachable moments to kind of explain the history behind it, for sure.
Definitely. Minda, I wanted to ask you, because you do a lot of work in empowering women of color in workspaces. What kind of tools or what ways can we combat these micro and macro aggressions in the workplace?
Yeah, you know, being in the workplace, obviously there's office politics, so you have to be very careful in terms of how you're like checking somebody, right? So who gonna check me, boo? You got to be careful with who that's going to be. But I think that you have to. It's all about self-advocacy. It starts there. So if somebody is macro or microaggressioning you, you need to let them know, hey, sis, you know, this isn't what we do here. It's a moment to educate, and then if they do it again, then we educate again. And I know it's a lot of onus on us, but half the time I really do believe they just don't know. And because they're not used to engaging with us. And that means they need to get out more, get in these streets and meet different kinds of people. And then you'd know not to touch hair. You'd know not to, you know, call me by a different name just because I have a different hairstyle. You know, all of these things that come up. So I think we have to be the ones to nip it in the bud, because we've been for so long just accepting it, just taking it, just being like, oh, they didn't mean any harm. But at some point, it's harm to us. So we have to speak on it in a diplomatic way. I do believe it starts there, that self-advocacy.
Yeah, it's so tiring. It is. Educating is so tiring. And, you know, it's a form of emotional labor that a lot of non-Black women don't have to deal with. But, you know, it's not just educating, you know, others who don't look like us. It's educating our daughters, educating our sisters. Nadir, I wanted to turn to you because, you know, you are a mother of a beautiful 5-year-old. And, you know, it's so crucial to kind of instill and empower within her that she is beautiful, and that, you know, not only the skin that she's in or the hair that grows in out of her head, but just authentically, you know, as a Black woman, or a young Black girl rather. How do you suggest that, you know, parents, or how has been your approach in raising a young Black girl who will become a Black woman?
Yeah. I'm still learning. I'm always taking cues, but I just started very early, just affirming her, just saying things to her that will help her know, even when it's not about her appearance, but because of how smart she is or how clever she is at solving this problem or how kind she is. I just want her to know that her beauty and her value is not about only her aesthetic. She is a beautiful little girl, but I want her to know and have pride and her self-esteem connected to things other than her physical beauty. But I do, related to her skin, it is something that we talk about. She has beautiful chocolate African skin, and she notices the difference between my skin and her skin and other people around her. And she asks questions about it. So I'm always trying to find ways to help her understand that her Black is beautiful regardless of whatever shade it is, and that we all should celebrate our skin color.
Yes.
Definitely. And I just want to remind folks at home to make sure that you're tuned into Sisters in Media's IG story and participating in that live polling. We'll be going to the results in a second. But Kennedy, I want to ask you because you are tuned in and you are actively creating content and engaging with folks online around this topic and others. So, what are some resources, or who are some resources that you suggest Black women and Black films turn to in order to feel empowered?
Well, first of all, I really believe in a spiritual connection. And I don't know where everybody else is at with that, but I do think that, yeah, all of that. I do think that having those conversations with yourself and looking in the mirror and reminding yourself who you are and who you want to be is the first step to having that connection and relating back to, what it is that you're trying to do, which is be more, But wait, I just wanted to say something about the white women wearing our hairstyles.
Go ahead, please.
Because I, like you, don't know if I care too much that you're doing it, but if you're not addressing where you got it from, and if you're not saying, listen, I just love Black women, this is why I'm doing this, then that's when it becomes a problem for me. But can you re-ask me the question you asked before? I'm gonna be that girl because I don't really remember what you asked.
No, it's fine. It's
Okay,
fine. What are
please.
some resources that you turn to or that you suggest others turn to in order to, feel more empowered in your beauty?
I honestly cannot give you one resource that I go to do that. I really believe in looking to myself for that type of empowerment. And I think that it can get a little sticky if you start looking to other people for that type of, you know what I mean? Y'all know what I'm saying, right?
I know what you mean.
I don't know all the words,
And I want to,
I get the feeling.
and I want to ask a follow-up
you.
to that. And I want to ask a follow-up to that too, because you are an influencer. How do you see social media changing how we kind of view ourselves?
Honestly, I think we're going in the right direction with social media. I feel like there's more access to the information that we're talking about right here. And that's why I enjoy being on there, because it is not so surface level anymore. People are sharing their self-care tips. They're putting you on game to health and fitness and loving yourself and all that type of information. I am big on follow who really inspires you. I'm not following people who I want to look like. I'm not following people whose clothes I want. I'm following the women who truly inspire me to be a better version of myself.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that's a perfect time to turn to the live polling. We have Ola from Sisters in Media, who will talk about some of the results from those pollings and questions.
Absolutely. So we're going to start off with one of the first poll questions. The question is, perfect. Was there a time that at work someone said your hair was unprofessional? And our polling came up to about 100 people, a little over 100 responded. We got 27% yes and 73% no. We'll discuss all of this afterwards. So let's move on to the second poll. The second question, have you ever felt self-conscious about your hair before a job interview? We got 90% yes and 10% no. And once again, this is a survey of a little bit over 100 attendants. And so we're gonna move on to the questions really quick. Taking our time. So the question is, has someone at work touched your hair without permission? If so, what did you do? We got a lot of responses for this, but the one that I'm actually going to talk about is, I'm not going to say no names, but someone mentioned an old coworker saw me alone and saw me by the printer. He ran his hands through my braids. And she said, I did not know what to do. I just awkwardly jerked forward and avoided him for a while. There's a lot more responses to that, but I'm gonna get your feedback after we go to the second question. Okay, and then the second question. It says, do you think social media has any impact on today's definition of beauty? Somebody responded, yes, today isn't only about girls with straight hair and flawless skin. All shapes are being considered. And we have a lot more responses, but I just want to hear the panelists' feedback on not only the polls, but the questions, especially one about people touching your hair.
I'd like to speak to the hair touching question. So I work at Procter & Gamble. We make a lot of different hair care products. So I work with a lot of people who are curious about hair because that's what they do. That's their work. And I oftentimes, when someone asks me a question about my hair, I invite people to touch it. I'm one of those people that is very comfortable with using my hair as a tool to drive conversation. I don't like for people to touch without permission, but I do invite people because I know they're curious and I really want them to do it with someone that they're not going to be hurt. And I always tell them, like, if you're going to touch someone's hair, always ask first. But I'm letting you know that it's okay for you to touch my hair. And I just want people to have that, the people that I work with, to really have that comfort in knowing our hair so that as we're making products that they really know, hey, I got 5 textures on the top of my head. You feel this one right here, this one over here. This is what we're talking about. Like, feel this right here. And so that's something that I do a lot of times.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, when I was in corporate America, I used to think that I didn't have agency to speak back and tell people, I don't want you to touch my hair. I just would, kind of be at the printer, right, and let somebody touch my hair. But after a while, I realized that if I don't like it, I have to speak up about it. And so there was one instance, long story short, a gentleman, we'll call him Bob. Bob, touched my hair, and I said to him, Bob, I really don't like it when you do that. And he's like, why? I really like your hair, that sort of thing. And so I said, not to be mean, Bob, I said, but, you're balding on the top. What if I came to your cube and I touched your bald spot without your permission? How would you feel?
Wow.
I had to bring it home to him, And he said, I would not like that. And I said, so don't touch my hair and don't touch anybody else's hair. That's not okay. And I said, how many times do people touch your hair in your life? And he's like, oh, not since my mom, right? And I said, so exactly. I said, so as your friend, I'm telling you so that someone else won't tell you a different kind of way. And so from there, I'm sure every black woman can thank me that Bob is not touching their hair now, okay?
Girl, good for you. Doing the work.
But it took a long time to get there. I used to feel like I couldn't speak up for myself, but I had to let him know, had I not done that, I would have been suffering in silence, right? So we have to do that.
Definitely.
I wanted to address the job interview question because I think that is actually a really fascinating complex. And I actually interviewed a bunch of women about this exact topic. I sourced Instagram and I said, have you ever felt uncomfortable wearing your natural hair to your job interview? And the responses were, some were empowering and some were really hurtful. And just in the audience, have you guys ever felt a little bit of anxiety when you switch up your hair and you have to go to work the next day? Right? It's like a common feeling a lot of us have, especially black women, because you just know the questions are gonna roll in and you have to mentally prepare about how I'm gonna strategically answer these questions in my most black girl magic way, right? And so I think that when I always interview for positions, especially for, beauty editorial roles, the beauty space, thank God, is becoming more diverse, it's becoming more inclusive. People are finally listening and understanding that black women and all women of color and men and everyone need to be at the center of the conversation when it comes to beauty. And when I went to my job interview, one interview for a major role, I had cornrows in the front and I had box braids in the back. I had hair jewelry, like cuffs everywhere, right? And I got the job. And then 2 weeks later, I had my Afro puff, and then a month later, I had a weave. And I was like, I'm gonna show these people, this is an ever-changing hair is ever-changing, and that is the beauty of black hair. It is so magically diverse. And let me just let you know up front and now that this is who I am, and this is accepted, and I'm not waiting for your approval, one. My work, all of our work speaks for itself, and we are not defined by anything, right? So I think it's so important to please be who you are when you go to these job interviews, and do not feel like you need to straighten your hair, do not feel like you need to pull it back into a tight, slicked bun. please don't, because they want our hair, y'all. They want their hair to look like, they love it. They love it. So it's like we are a hot commodity. Like, we are what everyone wants right now, and it doesn't matter because we're not seeking validation from anyone, right? But I think that it's important to walk into the room, own who you are, and let you and your experience and your aura and your talent speak for itself.
Amen, girl. Yes, clap it up for that. Our hair is versatile. We have the range. Everybody may not have the range, but we do.
Yes.
So we're gonna turn to a few audience questions. Anyone have a question in the audience? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. There we go. Okay, there we go.
Hi, my name is Maisha Boyd. Thank you so much for speaking with us and sharing your experiences. So can you talk about natural hair versus relaxed hair, and if you made that switch and what it was like, especially working in corporate America?
I made the transition before. First of all, I'm very fresh to the corporate America life. So I made the switch in 2009, and I did it because I just knew I didn't need to keep getting perms. It wasn't necessary. So once I transitioned, it was about getting my healthy hair game up. YouTube had just got real popping with natural hair online, so I was on YouTube. Do y'all know who Taryn Guy is? Okay, so I was all on her page, like, what do I need to do? What's a wash and go? What does that mean? And so once I figured out what I needed to do, I was a natural hair girl. But I was the slick bun queen when I was going in and interviewing. Like, anytime I was going in for an interview, my hair was in a slick bun. And then the first day of work was like, boom, hey, how y'all doing? This is actually what's happening up under there. But yeah, that's my transition story.
I've been natural my entire professional life. I transitioned back in college 20-something years ago, and but I did do a lot of manipulation to my hair to like make it smaller, and it's been longer and it's been easier to pull back than it is now. But I thought that I needed to. I'll use a word that I've heard before, to tame it myself for the office. And I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I've been, so in 2010, I went natural, but right now I'm wearing a weave, but in 2010, I went natural, and I tend to wear my hair blown out. And so natural for me is straight, and that's a whole nother conversation of, right, what people deem as, natural hair, but that's how I represent.
My switch really, I stopped getting relaxers a long time ago, maybe like in 2010 when I entered the business. But I was wearing a lot of weaves. And in TV news, once they see you with that look, that's the look that they want. So it's almost like, oh, we're trying to hire somebody. Oh, she has the look, so we're going to take that look. And so when I suddenly switched my hair, that's why, oh, wow, this is unprofessional. But my switch really came from me being pregnant. And then me thinking, okay, if, I had been wearing all of these weaves and wigs, and it's like, okay, what's going on under here? Okay, let me look at my natural hair. What is happening here? I got some straight, some curly, it's all over the place, and I don't like it. So if I don't like it, and I don't think it's beautiful, what happens if I have a little girl? Like, first of all, how am I gonna comb her hair? Because I've been combing relaxed hair or weaves all this time, and now I'm gonna be responsible for grooming her, and I don't even know how to groom myself. So let me take a step back and then figure out, like, I have to love me. I have to love my hair. I have to love my skin. And that's why I asked my boss if I could stop straightening my hair. Because as a mother, not only am I responsible for my child, right, but I'm a news anchor. So every morning, little kids in Jackson are looking at me, and I'm the idea of what's professional, right? So we gotta, that's what I was going through when I made that switch. And so what did I do? I did, the only thing that I could do was take the hair, and then I just, parted it right here, and I had my braid right here, and then I had my braid right here, and, kind of pulled in the back, and that was my style. But I guess this is my transition now. I don't know if I will always have braids. I'm not gonna say that I'll always be natural or I'll always be straight, but I had to figure it out. I'm going through it. I had to figure it out.
And I've been natural my whole life. I begged my mom when I was in swimming class, when all the girls came out the pool with wavy hair and my hair was like a short little afro, and I was like, Mom, I want straight hair after I like go swimming too, and she would not let me do it, and I was so upset. And now I'm so grateful that she never put any sort of chemical treatments in my hair, although, you know, we all go through different transitions, and my personal transition is I absolutely hated my hair all the way up until I was in college, maybe my junior year at Howard. I did not like my natural hair, and I am bold enough and like firm enough in who I am now to share that, right? We don't have perfect hair stories. Like, that was not mine growing up, and I straightened my hair so much. It got so damaged. I suffered from so much breakage because I wanted to look like everyone in my classroom. I wanted to look like what, you know, the magazines that I wanted to work in. I wanted to look like what the cover star looked like. I wanted to look like that, and I wasn't seeing imagery that was like that. So when I really embraced my natural hair, like thoroughly, was actually my first real job working in beauty at Cosmopolitan, and I just went for it, and I was like, I am gonna wear natural styles, and I'm gonna write about it, and I'm gonna share my story. And I remember it was one of my biggest first features, and it went viral, and so many women were so empowered by me kind of stripping myself from being addicted to weaves and dealing with heat damage and dealing with uncovering this confidence within myself. And I got so much love and support from like the internet and the community of like Instagrammers and followers and just sisters on the street and just everyone, right? And I was like, this is such a good feeling. And even the compliments at work were just rolling in. People are so enamored by like big curls and afros, right? Which is another conversation. Like, don't make my natural hair a fetish. Like, don't make my curls, don't define me by that either. I've also written about that because I think we don't explore that enough, because once again, they group us into two separate categories and we shouldn't be. But I think it's a really empowering experience when you just go for it all the way in this professional environment. And once you kind of believe in yourself and believe that you are that girl, everyone else will.
One thing that I've started experimenting with I wear head wraps a lot. And so I've been pushing that in the office too, because that just is what's natural to me, and that's when I feel most myself. So I've been, kind of testing the boundaries of, head wraps, and I get a lot of compliments on it, a lot of questions, but I grew up Muslim and I wore a head covering growing up, and that just feels comfortable and normal to me. And so it's a new space for me in the workplace.
Can I just say I've been pushing the boundaries too, and I love it with these braids. I've been wearing this big, huge, like bun on the top, like unapologetically. And I've realized that it gets a lot of attention. I remember walking into one of the news organizations, and I get to the security and the guy's looking down. And then I'm standing there and he looks up and he's like, whoa, but he was black. So he was just like, yeah, I love it. Like, it looks good. And I actually had a wrap on too, just to stay warm is the reason that I did it. And then when he looked up, I was like, oh, maybe I'm doing too much. And I actually took the wrap off, and I probably, shouldn't. I should have probably felt a little bit more confident. But even at work too, now, like there was a moment where my boss, the corporate folks were there. My boss was like, can you take your bun down? And she's black, so I was like, is it too black for you? And I was really, really proud though, like a week later when I was able to tell her about the new guidelines in New York, because not only was I excited, but now she is too, because she can wear her natural hair. So I've been telling people with these new guidelines, I think you're gonna see a whole lot more folks wearing and rocking their natural hair and natural looks, because now they have the law behind them, right? Now they're gonna feel more comfortable. They know that somebody supports them. So that's just my take. I love my bun, and I love the wraps too. I'm here for it.
Yes, and just being unapologetic, right? I think that that's really important because a lot of times, being unapologetic is a privilege that we have to fight for. And Maya, I definitely feel you on that and learning how to be unapologetic because for the longest I had relaxed hair, for a good 15 years of my life until I went to Howard and saw the beauty in my blackness. And I love it. I want to lean into that so much more. I think we have time for one more question. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So I had a question more so about the perception within, I guess, the Black female community. There is, I feel like, a beauty standard that is applied to natural hair as well. So I felt there was a space in which I didn't relate to because I saw a lot more. I'm African, so I like to say I have African hair. And, I would see a lot more women who may have a mixed hair, certain types of baby hairs that I couldn't relate to. So it stopped me from being proud of, my own natural hair. So what would you all say about that and how to combat that within our community and embrace one another?
Good question.
I love YouTube for a resource for finding women with hair textures that are relatable to your own, because that was what I was doing when I was transitioning, was trying to find women who had hair like mine, so then I knew what products to use, I knew what routines and what methods would probably work for me. But I will say, Maya, when you were talking about people fetishizing our hair, that is a thing, because I feel like sometimes people ask me to come in, Kennedy, we want the big hair, and it's listen, that was a good hair day, okay? My hair doesn't look like that.
You gonna get what hair I give you.
So you gonna get this bun, or you gonna get you know what I mean? It's gonna be pulled back. Something's gonna happen that's different from what you're asking for. And I do think there's a tendency to, you see a picture and then you see a skin color and you assume that this is how every light-skinned girl's hair is. And I have to battle with that sometimes because, listen, my hair doesn't work like that. I have multiple textures in my hair. You're not going to get that from me all the time. Sometimes I have a good hair day. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes the hair is dry, okay? Sometimes it's moisturized. And it's just there aren't questions being asked about that, and they're not going to ask those kinds of questions. But there should be an understanding that you cannot ask me to come in with a specific hair look. Our hair is not a part of the look.
Yes.
This is a part of me.
I remember a conversation with my boss, and he said, why don't your curls lay flat?
What does that mean?
Right. Well, I wish I would have said that, because I was like, bloodline. No. Mixed with Negro. No. And so, I wish that I would say rock your natural look. Just be proud of the curls that you have. Know that somebody else has the same type of texture that you have. I wouldn't keep trying to compare yourself to other people, because we are who we are. God created us to be who we are. So I wouldn't stop comparing. Do not compare yourself to anybody else. Just be you.
And I'm just gonna say that judgment has no color, and there have been times where I personally have felt victimized and shunned by the natural hair community. I'm just gonna say it because I feel like I switch it up, right? And I have the power and I'm liberated to do that, and we all do. And I think that just because I am wearing a certain style doesn't mean I'm all about Black power and Black womanhood. I absolutely am. So I think as woman to woman, we need to be sure that we're also not using reverse racism and excluding each other from the conversation, because that has happened a lot within every community, including the natural hair community. So I think that we all just need to understand that we can choose to identify ourselves with our hair, but that does not give anyone else the freedom to do that. So, there have been times, during photo shoots where, I've casted models and I've casted an all-Black staff, and I've done this so intentionally and purposely. And, there have been comments made about, my hair just because I'm wearing it a certain way that day. And I think that we have to be very careful with our language, because that really also is counterproductive in what we're trying to do. So I think we all just have to constantly even check ourselves and check our point of view and how we're looking at other women. And we have to realize that even curls and waves and coils and hair types, like, let's just not try to put a label on anything, right? Let's educate ourselves, but let's not judge other women however they decide to wear whatever natural style that they desire. It's their choice and they're empowered to do so.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that a little bit, but Audre Lorde said, beware of feeling like you're not good enough to deserve it. And no matter what it is, whether it's your hair, it's your attire, it's your skin color, we are all beautiful. Our black is beautiful. Yeah. So it starts in the mind. Yeah. So, start from there. Beware of feeling like you're not good enough to deserve it. And so when you start to think that way, whatever the labels are, you push those to the side, because every single one of us, our DNA is beautiful no matter what. And we don't need the natural or the not natural. Everything is beautiful. Yeah. And so it starts in the mind.
Yeah, we're black regardless.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's like,
yes.
I love that so much. One final thing before we wrap, I want to ask everyone, to give our audience, some takeaways and kind of talk about what you think or how you think other black women in black films can really lean into that unapologeticness and start to empower themselves, as you were discussing earlier, Kennedy.
I would first say, turn the TV off, turn the phone off, and grab a journal and write down the things that you love about yourself, write down the things that you like about yourself, get in the mirror, say them out loud. Wake up in the morning, give yourself an affirmation to say if you're having trouble believing those things, because I really think it's a faith-driven act that you have to have every day, and really believing in yourself is the key to that confidence. And I think confidence is the necessary when we're talking about beauty and defining it. It's about how you really feel about yourself. I really feel like I'm that girl. Nobody can tell me nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I'm walking into every door.
Yes.
And I want all of my sisters to feel that same way at all times, because we are those women. So I think that when you cut yourself off from social media and from TV and the outside noise, and you take the time to really listen to yourself and your thoughts that you're having about yourself, you can really hone in on what it is. Isn't it hone in?
Yes.
Hone in.
Yes.
Hone in. You got to ask sometimes. But you can really hone in on what it is that you need to work on, focus on what you need to, you know what I'm saying, really break down and rewrite those stories for yourselves. So that's my little tidbit.
I agree. It certainly starts within, period. Yes. Okay, next step. For me, Blackish really, really stood out to me. And the natural hairstyles that they were rocking on Blackish. And that was the reason that, I saw these natural hairstyles. I'm like, well, I could do these two little braids. And that's what gave me the confidence to wear it on my own show. So I think you can look, at outside places. I think you can look on TV. I think you can look on social media, because now we're not allowing corporate to define what beauty is, right? Yes. We're looking at all different sources. And again, for me, I got the confidence from watching actors and actresses on TV. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Nadir?
I mentioned earlier that I think that your definition of beauty really needs to be broader than the external. And it's really something that is made up of the whole of who you are as a person. It's the words that you use. It's the way that you engage with other people. It's the things that you do that leave a legacy and make people feel better about themselves because of how you interacted with them. Those are the things that really make people beautiful. And so I think that the advice that I would give to anyone is broaden your definition of beauty and expand your understanding of what makes you beautiful, and really own it and embrace it.
I 100% agree. I'm really big on thinking that you're beautiful on the inside out. And we can't idolize imagery, right? We can't idolize these celebrities because they're just like us, right? So I'm really big on energy, and I always think it's really important to walk into a room and to really humanize yourself and to greet everyone and to be equal and to be kind. And so when you walk around with that energy, I think that you receive that tenfold. And in my opinion, that is the most beautiful thing in the world. It's about love, it's about positivity. And even when, I do interview these women that we do see on TV and we see on the stage and they're Grammy nominated, like we all are around them. And it's like when we sit down, it's sister to sister. We're talking, right? We're on an equal playing field, and they're sharing their hair stories with me. They're sharing their insecurities. And we all go through the same exact thing. So once we stop comparing ourselves and our journey and our beauty and our body and our stature to everyone else is when we'll truly be able to walk in the light that we are. So I think it's really all about going inward and going deep and figuring out who exactly you are and who you want to be to the world. And when you walk around with that kind of energy, everything will be yours, and we are all just getting started. I really think it's just the beginning for all of us.
Yes, to every single one of it. Amen. So, for me, I think it's really about going back to redefining that beauty. And oftentimes, we've always looked to social media or the magazines, and those are great frameworks, right? But redefining what success looks like for you, reimagining what beauty looks like for you. So if somebody that you're following right now is not making you feel that joy, then unfollow them. It's unfollow. And when you feel like you need to come back, if you decide you want to come back, then there's a follow button. So unfollow all of those things that don't make you feel beautiful. Surround yourself with beauty, and only you can define, but take that time to figure out what beauty means to you, because I can give you all the tips and the top 10 things to do, but ultimately you have to lay down at night and you visualize what it looks like for you.
Mm-hmm. I love this so much. Oh my God, this just feeds the soul. Please join me in thanking our amazing panelists, Nadira, Maya, Minda, Brittany, Kennedy. Y'all are so amazing. This was an amazing conversation, and we don't want it to end it here. Please keep the conversation going of Black beauty in the workspace and just in general, really. Please keep it going on social media using the hashtag Redefining Our Beauty. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.